Okay, so hey, so welcome everybody. Welcome to this is my channel, man. It's the first of its kind here. Andrew underscore Terrell Jr. And I'm excited. I get to talk about what I love, man, dads. And if you're tying in and maybe you're not a dad, maybe you don't have a good experience with your dad, I apologize. I'm gonna continue to pray for your restoration, your healing. I help dads reconnect and restore their relationships with their kids. It's as simple as that. And I've been there. I'm going to talk about my credibility. I'll talk about my story a little bit, and it's going to be great. I'll have some points that I'll talk about so I don't go too overboard. But I'm excited to share. It's as passionate that what I'm passionate about is being a dad. I was a dad for a long time. I know I don't look it, but 20 plus years I've been a dad. Okay, let's put it that way. And man, my story is interesting, but we'll get to that. But this channel is for dads to come in and reconnect, to come have somebody to relate to, you know, to um, to be able to to be able to talk to be able to have somebody to answer their questions. Somebody that's been there and done that, and that's somebody that's still doing that. I'm still doing that. I'm still my oldest right now is 21 years old. He'll be 22 in November. I have an 18-year-old daughter, right? So I'm a girl dad as well, and then my son is 6 years old. I've at one point I had a stepdaughter who's still considered my daughter at this time. She's 23. But I was in her life when she was 2 years old. So at the end of the day, that's and I even had a child that is no longer with us, is was only 15 days old. So again, I have the experience. My heart is to really heal relationships between father and child. At the end of the day, this day and age, man, children need it. They need their daddies, man. And if it's not their daddies biologically, they still need a man. They still need a role model to be able to speak into them, to be able to help raise them. I mean, man, I don't believe this world is ending in a necessarily this world is ending for sure, but I don't believe it's the last we've seen of good men. I don't believe it's I don't believe that's to be true. I believe, there's hope still. I believe there's enough good men out there. And I think one of the biggest things we can do, as men is we can give flowers to other men. We can give directions to other men, and encourage other men, say, hey man, you got this, get back up. Listen, I know it was hard. I know that, that maybe the pregnancy or things weren't planned. I know you didn't really plan on being a dad. You wasn't ready for this, right? I didn't have a certain manual other than, my example. I grew up with my dad in my life. But other than that, there's a lot of information, a lot of stuff going on. You got to deal with a lot of things. I get it, but there's still hope. You still can do a great job. That kid depends on it. That your children depend on you, to be the best that they can be. I truly believe that. So, with that being said, I'm gonna go live here. See if I do that. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Great, awesome. So yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about, again, I'll talk a little bit about, what I've learned. I'll go over a little bit about my story. It's important to talk about credibility. Who is this guy talking about dads? Like, how is he a dad? Like, what's up? Like, what the nerve, right? And yeah, I've been a dad for a long time, over 20 years. When I was 21 years old, man, that's when I was a dad. And, I'm a little bit older than that. I'll be 43 this year, and um, man, it was the greatest blessing in my life. I consider my son, my oldest, being my hero, right? Because he saved me from, hanging out in the clubs and continuing to live that fast life. He saved me, in a sense of I wanted to do better for him, and I wanted to do better, and then um yeah, and then I also had an experience. I was able to take care of a child as a stepchild. Was able to non-blood, but I know what that's like as well. I was able to do my best to be there for a daughter that wasn't that technically wasn't mine, but she was mine. Why do I say it that way? Because there was a time that God gave her that that timing that was for me to step up, for me to love that child, for me to continue to be there for that child. And that's what we do as men. Like we stick to the plate. We step up to the plate and we swing. I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I was having issues myself. I wasn't perfect in a perfect situation, but when there's a child that needs to be loved, as men, we step up, as dads, as fathers, and that's what the world needs. Right. And then I was able to have, another my biological child is a daughter of mine, which is, that's a whole different thing. Having a daughter of your own, being a girl dad, technically it wasn't my first time being a girl dad, but, it's amazing. Really, it's the best thing in the world. And I was a dad, this girl dad. And man, to say that she had me on her finger, man, that'd be an understatement because I would have done anything and everything. And still to this day, I do my best to try to do whatever I can. But now I'm married, so that's my number one woman. At the end of the day. But your kids are your kids, right? And so, and then I even went through a loss of a child as well, right? And that was a big deal. Whether you're, whatever situation, there's no child, every child deserves a chance. They deserve to be alive. And so whatever you find, the situation you find yourselves in, you know, that it hurts. It's not an easy thing to navigate through, right? And so, and then my miracle baby, was my 6-year-old, my angel, my son. And I tell you what, starting over is an understatement. I didn't look at it as starting over as a bad thing because I tell people and they go, "You got a 21-year-old and then you got a 6-year-old. What were you thinking?" You know what I was thinking? I was thinking about another chance. I was thinking that, what, God is so great that he actually gave me another opportunity to raise a child. So that's what I was thinking. I was thinking he was a miracle, he was a blessing. So I needed to show him better than I showed my other kids, basically. So that was another chance. So that's how I looked at kids. I think kids have a way of cleaning the slate. A new baby cleans the slate from, your first child. Your first child, you mess up, you try to figure out what to do, what not to do. Everything is just, but by your second or third or fourth child, man, you're like, hey, man, it's all good. You're probably you're less stressed. You're probably more easygoing. And so that's good. That's kind of how it was. So at the end of the day, again, that just shows a little bit of credibility and what I've been working with as far as a dad and my history and my lessons that hopefully we'll be able to talk about today. But yeah, so hopefully that's a little bit of credibility. Do I know what I'm talking about? Yes. Am I perfect? No. Do I have everything under control all the time? No. But I got a sense about myself when it comes to the importance of dads. And again, if it wasn't for my dad, being there, showing me what it looked like to go to work, to sit at the table, to be able to have that, what a man looked like. I was privileged to have my dad. I know some dads don't. I know maybe if you're on this, you're on this channel, you're piping in, like maybe you didn't have that example. And, I want to say, my heart goes out for you, but at the end of the day, after today, you can't say that. If you're tying in, and you didn't have your dad in your life, hey, welcome, because I'm here to not be your dad. I'm here to love you. I'm here to give you advice and just tell your brother, hey, it's all good. Like we're still gonna be okay. I'm gonna do my best to give you the hacks. I'll do my best to give you whatever I can give you. At the end of the day, because that's what we need to do as men, encourage other men and stuff like that. So, anyways, the first thing I'll talk about is one of the things I've learned, because you'll never be perfect. I don't care what, and I know that's the goal for some reason. The goal is when you have kids, you got to have everything figured out in your head. You have to have all your money figured out. You got to have all your adventures already taken, right? They tell you if you have kids, your life is not about you anymore, and that's what my dad told me, and he was partly accurate, But at the end of the day, I realized that it's presence over perfection. It's presence over perfection. What does that mean? It's like me being there was way better than me trying to be perfect and trying to have everything together. My kids didn't need me to be perfect. They just needed me to be there. They just need to be consistent. They needed to count on somebody being there, and so that they can know who they are. They could be reminded of who they are. And so I say presence over perfection any day of the week, and that's one of the big things that I've learned, as far as being a dad. Okay, so that's huge. One of the other things that I've learned was, you got to start where you're at. You got to start where you are. You can't start at the finish line. You can't, even me, 20 plus years of raising kids. You can't look at me and go, oh man, well, see, it worked for you. Or you know what? Let me try what you did. I'm going to hopefully give you some simple things that you can try. But what do I mean by starting where you're at? Well, you got to start where you're at. If you have kids of your own or you don't have kids of your own. If you have, here's what I'm, if you got a neighbor's kid, right? If you volunteer, at the Boys and Girls Club like I did, you got to start wherever you're at. Start making an influence or wherever you're at. At the end of the day, that's because that's all you can do. That's practice, right? Before you can have kids of your own. And so that's kind of where I mean. And then when you do have kids, when you have the responsibility, you start where you're at. If you don't have all the money in the world, if you don't have all the adventures and the trips and the stories that tell them, you got something to offer. You've lived life somehow, and you can just offer them whatever knowledge that you have, whatever you've been through. Just start from wherever you're at. If you didn't serve maybe if I was in the military, so there's stories and stories and stories that I have to tell, that I can relate to my kids. But even if you didn't have the military, even if you weren't in the military, at the end of the day, start where you're at. You can be at the corner store. You can be, going to school as a student. You can be, at the end of the day, you've lived life, right? And just start wherever you're at. If it's, if you have the kids and maybe you're not able to give them the best that you can give them your time. If you're not able to give them every single thing, trust me, I was there. I remember sitting my kids down on Christmas at one point, and letting them know like, hey, we don't really got it, guys. We blew the budget. We don't really have everything. And I felt like, and maybe it wasn't their business, but I was like, I need to be real with these kids that they're only going to get socks this year, right? And so that's just what it is. It's being honest. Kids have a great, very simple way of understanding without understanding what's happening. They don't need to know all the details. They just need to know, okay, mommy and daddy's going through some things right now. He's saying things are going to be different. Okay, daddy, I got you. It's as simple as that, right? Like, you may not believe that, but I don't know how many times I was left alone with one child or two. Mom was gone. And it's like the children understood that, okay, we home with dad. Okay, we ain't gonna push him. We're not gonna push his buttons. We're gonna give him a break. It's like kids, they innately know that. Like it's like they're born to know, like, I don't know. Like I'm not mama. I'm not the mama. Right. And so that's what it is. And so just start where you're at. Trust me, you'll be, your presence will be enough. Presence before presence. Trust me, that's going to go a long way, and I think you'll stand out for sure, and you'll set off in the right direction of making a great difference in that child's life, man. I'm telling you what. And then owning up to mistakes, owning up to mistakes. You guys ever heard the saying, if you make a mistake, if you fall down, if you experience a little bit of hell, like don't get a motel. Like in life, we're going to fall down. We're going to make mistakes. Again, like I said, we're not perfect. We're present, but we're not perfect. But guess what? What can we do but own up to it? And again, I'm telling you, I promise you, I've lived this. Our kids have a way of understanding without really understanding really what's going on. Of course, they're not going to understand. They're kids. They're not going to know all your stresses. They're not going to know all the bills and what needs to get paid, the stresses that you're going through at work or at home or relationship wise. They don't know what happened. But guess what? You explain to them, hey, dad, sorry about that. You know what, dad missed the mark on that. That was me. That was my fault. That wasn't you. It's so important to tell a kid that, like, it was me, it wasn't you. It's as simple as that. It's a big deal, man. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I've learned to take ownership of a bunch of stuff. I didn't always do that. I was the sorry guy. I was a sorry dad. Okay. And then I became a dad that was sorry. I know I said that, a bit ago on a reel that I had. And it's so true. It's like we may feel like we're sorry dads and we're not good at it. But when we own up to our mistakes, we don't become a sorry dad. We become a dad that's truly sorry for making that mistake. And our kids feel that. I'm telling you, it's respect. When you can just, kneel down with your kid, if you can be honest with them and be like, hey, look, I don't got it this time. I'm going to do better. And, it's weird because it's like you're telling a child that you're going to do better. It's like your child becomes your accountability partner, but I don't care. Whatever your excuse is to do better, do better. I use my kids at point, and I had a conversation, and they don't probably remember it. It was 1, 2, 3, but I was talking to him. Dad's going to get his stuff together. Dad's not going to blow up like that anymore. Dad's going to get better. Right. And it was my promise to them, and maybe it was my promise to God. I don't know, you know, but it felt like, now I had something to go for because I told them something. So now it was just backing it up. And that's what it is. Being a dad is as simple as saying something and walking it out, doing what you say. It's super important. Being accountable. Oh my gosh. In this day and age where somebody will say one thing and they do the complete opposite, guess what? They'll have friends that say one thing, I want to be your friend, and do the opposite. Trust me. We had that experience. Oh my gosh, where it was like they're friends one day and they're not friends the next day. And I'm like, I thought you what happened? Of course we'll have it's the world. The world will say one thing, will make a promise, and guess what? It'll change it up. And so that's what it is. It's not changing it up. So our kids can have something to come to rely on, to be there, and to say, you know what, I have something that I can believe in. Everybody's not going to switch it up on me. And if in fact, if everybody does, guess what? My dad got my back, my mom got my back, hopefully. But I can only speak, obviously, can speak to dads and speak to, the fact that it's so important, to have both. If you, ideally, my son, I mean, 6 years old, he has both. He has a father figure and a mother figure. Two people that can give him whoopings, that can give him lickings. So excited. I'm so pumped, right? I'm so and I ain't going nowhere. And the goal is to get better. The goal is to continue to, be there. And it's so kids need it, man. I'm telling you, that 6-year-old brother, he needs it. He's super smart. He knows how to push buttons. Kids do. They know how to play sides. But when you ain't playing those sides, when you on one side, I'm telling you what, man, the kids is like, okay, all right, I'm done. So hopefully you guys felt that, starting where you're at, obviously making mistakes, owning up to it. Um, I want to communicate something before I jump off. I wanted to just I'm going to be going to spend some time with obviously my son and my wife, but I wanted to share something, Richard, real quick. The future, what you can expect. Do I ever feel like I'm perfect or I have everything together? I don't. I don't know where God's going to take this channel. To be honest, I know I'm speaking from a passion of mine. I'm speaking for something that I literally will choose to die for, but also will choose to live for, will choose to get uncomfortable for, right? And that's my kids, man, and they're my legacy at the end of the day. You want to have a great relationship and you want to worry, you want to worry less about your future. Have your kids, love on them, invest in them, and at the end of the day, I believe things will work out the way they're supposed to. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that you're going to have a perfect relationship with your kids? No. Is this channel to give you a tip and a trick and to manipulate your kids? Heck no. Like I'm not. No, that's not even close. My goal is to do what I feel like every man should have the power to do, which is control themselves. Like we're so strong. We go to the weight room, we go train, and we have big shoulders. God gave us big shoulders for a reason. But man, if you can't handle yourself, if you can't control yourself, right? So that's my goal, to encourage every man to control what comes out of their mouth, to be better at controlling their actions, to be better at being present and understanding that they can control what they can control, and that's themselves. So a lot of times if there's so much going on in the world, but if you can control yourself, you start to now become that eye in the storm. Believe it or not, it's scientifically proven that there's an eye, the peaceful part of that storm is in the center of that storm. When you got everything going on, I'm telling you that your kids need you to be that rock, man. They need you to be that center of the storm, and not just one day, not just for 2 days, but for the rest of their life, at the end of the day. I feel like moms got that built in, man. It's like they almost got no choice to be that rock, man. And I've seen the opposite, very rarely, but I've seen the opposite where they weren't that rock, unfortunately. But mom's got that built in, man. It's like I feel like dads, need to learn how to be that rock. Be strong, be soft, right? Because we're strong, but somehow, some way, we don't realize that we got to be soft when it comes to our kids. Like we're already strong. We have to learn how to be soft. We learn how to have the right tone. We learn how to, talk to them the way we need to talk to them. So yeah, this is a community for people that want to grow, they want to get better, and they want to continue to build themselves up. Man, at the end of the day, one of the best, most important roles that you can have as a father, in my opinion, my belief. I was in the military. I was climbing the ranks, but you know what the most important rank was, and it will always be for me, the rank of a father. At the end of the day, the rank the grade and rank that my kids give me will mean more to me for what I'm trying to accomplish in my life than really anything else. Now, simple as that. Because that's my legacy. So hopefully you guys feel that. Push that like button. Share this video. Maybe with another dad. and let's build each other up. It's as simple as that. But yeah, love you. Thank you so much for tying in, on Instagram here. We appreciate you. Um, and yeah, this is more to come. I'm going to be doing, I don't know, we're going to try to do these a couple of times a week. Stay humble for sure. Or humble and hustle. You got to do it both. And yeah, we'll figure it out. So, anyways, you guys have a good one. Thanks for tying in, and I'm out.